Okay, who am I? I'm Caroline. I've been a pediatric OT for about 20 years now, and I've gotten to work in various settings, public schools, private clinics, and also early intervention. So all kids birth to 18 with all kinds of diagnoses and disabilities. I became an ADHD certified clinical service provider after my son was diagnosed a few years ago. And that really became my passion because I really wanted to understand him as much as I could. And then also to understand my kids that I work with and be able to help them more thoroughly. So, what this looked like for us was we were on the struggle bus for a very long time. Um, Gosh, it seemed like it was just never ending. We did everything from OT to speech, play therapy, counseling, gene site testing, which is a DNA test to see how he metabolizes medicine, 8 different meds, supplements, all the things. And I know you guys have too. I've talked to some of y'all, and um, we've all been on a path where we just don't want to leave any stone unturned to help our kids. But what this looked like for us also was daily meltdowns that would last over an hour sometimes, school phone calls almost every day. And that just really wears on a parent when you are just struggling and not sure how to help your child and doing the best you can. So that led to a lot of overwhelm, shame, and guilt, stress, tension in our family between us and our kids, between my husband and I, even. And so we really got fortunate one day coming across parent coaching, and that really became a pivotal point for us. Because what I saw was, as a clinician, that all that we were doing was sort of top down. Um, we were dealing with all these symptoms and then not dealing with the foundational things. And so basically, we were filling up this bucket with all these tools, and then there were gaps and leaks everywhere. So through parent coaching, we figured out how to plug up those leaks. So after a while, we noticed a huge transformation in our family, not just with our son, but with all of us. Um, it inspired me to become a parent coach and to help other parents so that they can understand what was the missing link here. So the trajectory for a lot of kids that I work with, as well as our family, was your child struggles, you take them to the doctor, you get a diagnosis, or you start with OT, PT, therapy, and then we just kind of keep spinning our wheels. And so there was just a big piece missing here. Um, so anyway, like I said, that was my big inspiration, my big why for starting or doing what I'm doing now so I can help other families. So, so in this program, or in this course today, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but I want to give you guys a spoiler alert first. Nurturing our neurodivergent children isn't about changing them, it's about changing us. And that was the biggest aha moment for us as a family. And even for myself, who have worked with kids for so long, it was a very humbling experience to understand this in a very deep way, and not just with my head, but with my heart also. And this takes acceptance of our kids, understanding that they are not broken. They don't need to be fixed. Yes, they need to be supported. Yes, there's a growth edge. And at the same time, when we come at it with a fresh perspective and understanding that we need to deal with us first, then that really it's like a tipping point where things just fall in place. And we'll get into that more as we go along. So some of the key challenges that I hear about with kids and families are they're dealing with kids that are very highly sensitive, overly emotional, aggressive, explosive, um, defiant, and have a lot of refusals, dealing with anxiety and perfectionism. And all this goes back to a need for control in an environment that's very out of control for them. Avoidance of challenges and new experiences, feeling very discouraged, embarrassed, and then also excessive screen use. This isn't just something that's a dopamine hit for them, but it can be an escape for them from things that are very difficult in their life. So that's thing that they face currently, but also a long-term trajectory is that is that a lot of kids who are neurodivergent, who don't get the support they need, they have poor outcomes in life. So there's failure to launch, higher rates of food and housing instability, lower life satisfaction, high rates of anxiety and depression. And all those are really sobering statistics. And I don't say that to scare parents, but just to show parents that this is such a critical period right now. And starting early can really change the trajectory of that path.
We're on mute. They can't hear us and they can't see us.
Yeah.
But there's Caroline.
Hey, Angela. How are you?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I thought we were muted. I'm sorry. Hey,
That's okay.
I just wanted to tell everybody, after doing your course, I'm able to drink wine and eat, and the kid is actually leaving me alone and doing his homework.
Oh, that's awesome. I've heard he's been doing so good.
I need to get more ice cream.
Oh, now he's going to get some more ice cream. But you gotta. It's all about the picking your battles, right?
Right, that's right. Hey, buddy. So after sharing those not so fun news, there we go. I want to share with you guys some good news. And this is just to give you guys the same hope that we experience, because it's very easy to say, this too shall pass. And at the same time, this doesn't help in the moment when we are feeling so demoralized and discouraged. But I want to give you guys this just to give you some hope. Those outcomes that I gave in the last slide are not set in stone. The good news is that 50% of kids with ADHD do go on to manage their symptoms well by adulthood. And the other good news is parents and caregivers have the greatest impact. And this has to do with attachment theory. Our parental attachment with them is so powerful, the most powerful uh, tool that we have. And that really impacts the trajectory that they have ahead of them. So the stronger our relationship and connection with them, then the stronger their likelihood, the outcome for them. And this means that we can prepare well ahead of time and that we can shift that trajectory in their favor. So has anyone heard of the marshmallow test that they did in the 1950s? Put up your hand, or you can say yes, or put in the chat. Um,
Yes.
Yep. If you have not, it was a test that was done on a group of preschoolers, and basically the test was they would have the marshmallow for the kiddo, and if they could wait until the person came back, then they would get two marshmallows, and if they couldn't, they would eat it, and that would be the last one they got. And the result was that the correlation they made was that the kids that were able to wait for that second marshmallow had better life outcomes. So stronger financial health, able to hold jobs longer, better life satisfaction. And I don't know about you guys, but when I, for me, it made me think, well, shoot, that does not leave my son in a very good trajectory there. I kind of projected a negative outcome for him because I'm like, my kid's going to eat that marshmallow. As soon as leaves your hand, he's going to eat it. But at the same time, there's been newer research that tried to replicate that study, and they did not find the same findings. And there were a lot of reasons. For one, that initial study, the pool was small, and then there were some biases like socioeconomic status. That was one. So, for example, if someone with a very low socioeconomic status was in a study, they were not as likely to be able to inhibit that response because they didn't know that when it would come back. There was a food scarcity thing there. But more than anything, it had to do with the parental availability and attachment. So basically, if there was a strong attachment to their family, then to their parent, then it helped them with the emotional control and the impulse control to wait for that second marshmallow. So I thought that was really interesting. And I'm saying this because basically, impulse control, inhibition, all of that can be taught. You have a whole lifetime to teach your kids this here. Um, the frontal lobe does not develop fully until the mid 20s. It's the last part of the brain to develop. And so this means that while we want to teach our kids as early as possible, that there is time to teach and to shape the brain. So I hope that gives you guys hope. I'm going to move to the next slide. So today we're going to learn how to decode estimate your child's misbehaviors. And I put quote unquote misbehaviors because I just find that words, labels such as misbehaviors or defiance, strong willed, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't really give us clues to what's underneath there. So, anyway, we'll learn how to decode your child's misbehaviors to support and foster more effective behaviors. And we will learn how to support your child in moving through the discomfort and versus avoiding it. Also, to teach your child how to manage their stress with practical coping strategies so that they can creatively problem solve. So, just a quick point, all behavior is communication. So, that's why, again, I put the quote unquote misbehaviors in, or misbehavior in quotations there, because behavior is communication. What is your child telling you? What are they telling you that they're lacking and needing? And that's really hard when you're in the moment dealing with whether you're getting hit, bit, yelled at, cursed at, but there is something there that is driving that behavior. So, that's what I'm really hoping to get into tonight. And then the word decode, I want to get kind of decode that word for you guys. But we are learning to speak our child's language in order to get to the root issues. So for young kids, their language is not fully developed. And even for older kids, they have not had the experience to widen their vocabulary enough to use the words sometimes that would communicate their needs. So in practice, for me, I hear a lot of adults saying to young kids, use your words. And I can't help but to cringe a little bit about that with that, because A, they may not have the language development yet. And then B, when you're in shutdown mode or intense emotion, your words are not going to be very easily accessible. Other way. Okay, let's see. Okay. So, like I said, all behavior is communication. When you really understand sort of the root causes, which we'll get into, and even if you don't understand the root causes, when you give yourself that gap or give your child um, just that space to where you're not jumping to conclusions, then it allows you to respond with the right strategies instead of fueling the fire. So, some of those root causes may be executive function delays. So, kids with ADHD all have executive function delays. And what executive function are is it's a group of skills, working memory, um, let's see what else, impulse control, emotional regulation, sustained attention, all of those things. They're delayed by 2 to 3 years for our neurodivergent kids. So, also sensory sensitivities. So kids may have issues with tags in their shirts, or they may be more prone to just kind of falling apart when there's too much visual stimulation in their environment or too much noise. So for my son and I have um, sensitivities to just to noise too, and so it doesn't take much for me to feel really worn out and stressed by the end of the day, because I work with kids, so there's a lot of loud noise around me. But then also chronic stress and invalidation. And I think this is such a big one that we underestimate. Um, So kids with ADHD tend to get just so much more negative feedback than their peers. And also compounded with us adults and teachers or therapists, whoever we are, putting on unrealistic expectations on them. For example, like I just mentioned before, if we're expecting an 8-year-old with ADHD to do something that his peers should be able to do, then that may not be realistic because there's that 2 to 3 year lag I was just talking about with executive function. So this chronic stress kind of creates a negative feedback loop where they feel like they're not capable of doing something, and yet we're piling on stuff that they need to do. And so they're so much more vulnerable to shame and then also perceiving um, requests as threats. So you might see this as the kiddo who avoids everything you ask them to do, whether it's doing their homework or cleaning up their room. That may be for them in their mind um, the same stress release when they're running from a bear. So just kind of to go deeper into just their nervous system, like I was saying before, how they are more prone to um, a sensitive nervous system. Some of them may be for just because of their unique wiring, and then some of it is due to their environment and the feedback they're receiving from other people. So there's three states of our nervous system. Fight or flight is when there is a threat, a perceived threat that is so big it makes us want to run or fight, and that's self protection there. Also, freeze, which is shutting down, feeling really stuck in something and feeling helpless. And then there's social engagement, which is the rest and digest part of our nervous system. When we're here, then our body's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's digesting its food, it's breathing. And then also, we're more curious, happy, and playful, and more mindful of what's going on. So, for our kids, and actually for us too, learning and doing happens here in this green zone where there's social engagement. For our kids to learn, whether it's at school or to do something new, they first have to feel safe in their environment. They have to feel connected to the person who is asking them to do the thing. And then they have to have the skills and motivation also to carry out that task. So if you think about it like a puzzle, if any of those pieces are missing, they're going to struggle to meet the demand. And on the other end, if they are if all those pieces are in place, then there's going to be that just right fit, where it may still be challenging but also rewarding. And so it's our job to find that just right fit for them, and it can be really nuanced, and this can even change from day to day for our kids, just depending on where they're at physically. Hey, Crystal.
Hey, so sorry I didn't realize I'm unmuted. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, glad you're here. We were just talking about just the nervous system and basically how many of our neurodivergent kids or even young kids can be very prone to fight or flight or freeze, either because of their unique brain wiring or also because of the feedback they get from adults or just their environment. So when you think about the expectation we put, there's a gap. When you think about the gap between what they're able to do and then the expectation we put on them, if it's too wide of a gap, then that could really activate the fight or flight. It could really trigger a kid, especially if this happens very often. And I have no idea why this is not showing up, but I wanted to give an example here. Maybe I might have it on. I'm going to pull up a picture for you guys. There we go. Okay, can you guys see those two pictures?
No,
Oh, shoot. Okay.
I think
Well,
you have to.
okay. That's
You
okay.
have
I'll
to
go back
share
to
your
the Slack. Okay, we'll just hang out here for a minute. I'll just describe it. So I'm going to use an example with my son. We live in a beautiful town, and we went to kind of do a tour of our town one day, and there is an observation tower that is 215 feet high. And when you get all the way up to the top deck, you get like this beautiful panoramic view of our town. Some of you guys have heard this story before, but it's just always a good reminder for me. But we had a friend come up to visit us. She drove an hour away. And so she hopped in my car when she got here. We went into town. And then I pulled up to the parking lot and to where the observation tower was. And I said, okay, here we are. We're going to go up to the top. And I just thought my boys would love it because it looks really neat. It just looks cool. And as soon as he saw it, he flipped out. And he was about 7 at this time. And me, I'm confused. I've been up there before. It's pretty. There's no reason why you shouldn't, refuse to go up there or to just try and go see. And I had a choice at that moment. I could raise the temperature and get mad also and say, you're going in. My friend just drove an hour to get here. We are not turning around. But instead, I practiced the skills that we had been working on, which some of my clients have also learned and practiced, and to this day, it's so important. We have to continue practicing how to self-regulate, how to use mindfulness to just slow down and pause, observe. But I did all those things and with Jimmy, and I just kind of let the temperature. I could see it kind of decreasing a little bit, and right when I saw that he was somewhat, you know, ready to shift a little bit out of that, I just told him, "Hey, why don't we just go to the gift shop right there? It's at the bottom of the tower. That's all we're gonna do." And of course, he was all for that because he heard gift shop gifts, and so we went in and just looked around and just kind of looked at all their little trinkets. And then I showed him the turnstile, and I said, "Have you ever seen a turnstile?" And we were just using curiosity at this point. Kids are curious and playful, so we were using those two strategies, and he was interested. And I said, "It takes you to the elevator, which takes you all the way to the top." And he said, "You mean I don't have to walk all those steps to get up there?" And I said, "No, we're using the elevator to get up there when you're ready." And so I'm going to use this as a metaphor here. In his mind, the his his abilities did not match the expectations. He did not feel capable. And this was more than behavior as we tend to think. It could have easily been, okay, why is he giving me a hard time? Why does he have to be so difficult? Why can't he just get his butt up the tower? But once just giving him that space and seeing, oh, this is what was going on in his mind. He didn't have the capacity to physically walk up those steps, even though that's not what I was expecting. That's what he thought I was expecting. So he didn't have the physical, emotional, and behavioral, cognitive, whatever capacity to do what he thought I was asking him. Because kids are so concrete, they're black and white. See, Justin joining us. Okay. Because kids are so concrete, and our job is to step into that gray area with them, into that curiosity to show them, oh, this is not all or nothing. It's building insight bit by bit. And so just taking that step into the gift shop allowed him that space to feel safe because I wasn't pressuring him or pushing him. But once he felt comfortable and noticed, oh, here's the expectation, I can do that, it gave him a sense of capability. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes. Totally.
Okay. So I'm going to use that as a metaphor. Sometimes when we're putting expectations on our kids, whether it's doing this new thing, going to this new place, or maybe even if it's as simple as transitioning from something they are really into at that moment, watching TV, to, hey, we're going to go have dinner now. That can be so jarring to them that, okay, look, Ben, am I cheating now? You can say hi real quick.
Hi.
Hi. All right, and you can go upstairs and I'll be upstairs. Because they're listening. Okay, hello. He says, why aren't they talking? Um, okay, where was I? So sometimes what we're asking of our kids, they may be perceiving that task as something like a 215-foot observation tower that they're having to climb by foot. And that could be a project for a teenager or an adolescent. It could be going for a job hunt. They don't have the skills yet to see them doing it, or they don't have the insight yet to think that they can. It's about whether they feel like they can do it or not, and it's our job to build the insight to show them that they can in a way that's very paced for them. So I just want to hear real quick. You guys can unmute or put it in the chat. What is something that you guys struggle with the most with your kid? What do you find them refusing the most? Leah says picking up their toys. I'll be there soon.
I would say dinner time is always a battle.
Mm.
Not wanting to stay at the dinner table and I want to eat, rather go play.
Dinner time is definitely a hard transition, especially when you're getting home from the end of the day. Everyone's a little bit tired and rushed. And yes, it is a big transition and shift. Let's see. And Stephanie says, helping around the house, realizing we are a team. I have teams. And that makes sense. That's a hard one. Um, yeah, same here. So see, Holly said homework. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Leetta. Yeah, homework is also a difficult one. And Leetta says she also agrees on dinner. Dinner is a tough one. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so, and I'll get into
Caroline,
this. Yes.
can I add that bedtime, at least for my son being a teen, is a hard time for me. It's a struggle.
Yep. That is sometimes getting them to shut off their brains at night is so difficult. Angela says homework. Yes, homework is so hard. And if this makes you guys feel any better, studies show that homework is not very effective in teaching them what they need to learn, our kids, um, at least until high school. So if that makes you feel any better, but I get it. We're also building skills on doing things that are um, that build that discipline and those habits. So yes, all good ones. So I mentioned this because later on we'll kind of go through some more, but get curious on what is it that is so hard for them to do those things, whether it is cleaning their room, getting started with homework, getting to bed, and then, and then hey Justin, um, and then also just figuring out what is that one small thing that might shift that for them. And again, we'll get into this as we go on, but I wanted to share that with you guys. See, all right, let me move. I'm sorry, those pictures were going to be so pretty. Well, anyway, I'm sorry. Let me finish the story. When he understood that we were going to be taking the elevator up to the top, and when we got up there, it was just beautiful. It was one of those moments where you just saw your kiddo struggling to do something, and then they did it, and you saw that sense of empowerment on their face, like I did it. It was scary, but I did it. And he even said that exact phrase. It was scary, and I did it. And so those little moments, no matter how small they are, they have a compounding effect. And we as parents, we want to see that more and more and build up those opportunities to do that. See, let me move this over. So the second part after we decode is to support, and I kind of touched on this. We need to first, like I said before, look at ourselves first. What are some ways that we may be inadvertently triggering our kiddo with expectations that they are not able to meet yet? Or how are we attempting to fix things for them? Uh, it could have been very easy for me in that last scenario to say, okay, fine, we're just going to go home. Forget this. It's not worth it. But really just holding on to the certainty, and I want you guys to all hear this, holding on to the belief that just because your kiddo is not doing something right now, it doesn't mean that they won't ever. It's just something that you have to remember. No doesn't mean not now, and can't actually means cannot yet. So again, just bit by bit in very small increments, teaching our kids that no matter how old they are and what they're facing. So how you show up matters. Be a coach and not a referee. What does that mean? What does a referee do? They're telling them exactly what to do. They're running interference. Um, versus a coach who guides. So just like I do with my families that I work with, I'm guiding. I'm not always telling them what to do because I want them to build the critical reasoning skills, the critical thinking and problem solving skills, and that's what you guys. That's what I want you guys to learn as well. And then be a detective, meaning you're getting curious, you're investigating what's going on again underneath the surface, versus a judge. A judge assesses, interprets, uh, and labels. So, lastly, be a thermometer and not a thermostat. So, in those moments, again, with my son earlier, when I felt like I was under pressure because my friend was there who had driven a while to get there, it was very easy for me to rise with him as far as temperature. He was, I would say, on a scale of 10, being 10 max intense emotions, he was probably about a 7. And I was feeling myself get up there too. I went from a 2, maybe a 5. But with being mindful and observant and just noticing our own nervous system and how we're triggering them, When we can pause and notice that first, it makes all the difference. It shifts the trajectory. It causes us to be a thermostat instead. So when I slowed down and I did, yes, my deep breathing and I assessed what's going on with him, it allowed me to be a thermostat and maintain a cool temperature. And that's when he was able to steadily come back down. So stop looking for ways to fix the weaknesses. Instead, develop strategies and coping mechanisms. And here's another spoiler alert. I will answer questions and specific questions and challenges you guys are facing later, but you're going to notice that I'm not giving specific, very technical solutions here. And that's because it really depends on your child, it depends on your family. And you guys have probably heard this before. Parent the child you have. Have you guys heard that before? If you have, raise your hand or say yes, put in the comment. I just want to make sure you guys are engaging with this and I'm making it accessible for you guys. So not only do we need to parent the child we have, we need to parent the child we have in that moment. And that's really nuanced. So let's say, for example, my kid forgot his homework yesterday. I may or may not bring it to him. Today, if he does it again, I might bring it to him, depending on the circumstances surrounding that. So following that, let me go back. Let's say he forgot his lunch. This might be easier to understand. If he forgot his lunch yesterday, I may say, sorry, that's not going to happen. If he forgets his lunch today, and let's say he has a test later on in the day, and knowing that he's going to be hungry going into that test and the stakes are higher, then I may be more apt to take him his lunch. And so same for you guys. We'll look at strategies, but we're really going to be looking at principles and concepts instead, just more broadly. So we talked about in the past slide decoding and how factors that sort of causes our kids to stumble can be environmental modification or fit. So basically, if the expectation is too high, or sensory needs. So some of our kids are more sensitive to the input they're getting from their environment. ADHD is a little bit, that term is kind of misleading. It's not an attention deficit. Sometimes it's an abundance of attention. They are very sensitive to the input they're getting, whether it's what their friend nearby is talking about, what they're seeing outside the window. They're paying attention to everything and they're having trouble filtering what is relevant in that moment. And then systems, how we can support with having systems in place. So here's an example, family meetings. Instead of daily having to tell your kiddo, what's your homework today? Did you do your homework today or did you do it for tomorrow? You might start off by meeting on Sundays, having a 5-minute Sunday dinner meeting. Hey, what will it look like for you to be successful this week? And that does two things. It builds insight. It causes them to think about what's going on that week, but it also shifts the responsibility to them a little bit. So you're collaborating here. You're giving them some of their own responsibility to carry. Not all of it, depending on where they are as far as independence level, but that's just a strategy there. And then having consistent routines. And this is nothing new. You guys have heard this a lot, but what does it look like? Consistent routines that can work in your favor could be something like screen times is only after homework. So if that's a general rule, then you don't have to fight about it every day. You can always go back to, hey, remember the rule is homework first and then screen. And if that's something that you guys have not done before, then it may take a couple weeks, let's say if you do start implementing, for them to get used to that change. But once it becomes something that is predictable, then it takes away the power struggle that usually ensues. Other routines might be dessert comes after dishes. So again, just these small, tiny tweaks to your routines can be really helpful in avoiding those power struggles and arguments. Let's see, Stephanie, thank you for that comment. You said, yes, it makes sense. No child is the same, definitely. And isn't it amazing also how that same child is so different from day to day? And it goes back to, I think I said this earlier, it just depends on the circumstances. Here we are actually in this slide. It depends on what's going on that day, their physical capabilities, or uh, did they get enough sleep last night? So all those factors definitely play a role. So other ways to support child empowerment. So finding their healthy interests, and nothing here is too trivial. It is amazing once you unlock that interest for them, how far you can go in playing into their strengths and how you can leverage that for things that are hard for them that they tend to avoid. So I'll give you some examples here. I have a kiddo who loves Ninjago, and uh, in those moments, I'm so happy that I know about Ninjago because my boys also love Ninjago. So basically, working with kids and then having same age kids definitely helps me out sometimes. But this kiddo struggles with math a lot. And when I can pull in anything Ninjago, even if it's just talking about Ninjago, like, hey, if Ninjago had five, I don't know, ninja stars, whatever you call them, and then he threw two of them, how many would he have left? Would he have left? Um, this kiddo will answer that question and be totally engaged versus if I was to give him a worksheet and say, do this. Another example, I want you guys to just be able to generalize this as much as you can. Think about Michael Phelps, who had so much energy. His mom enrolled him in swimming, and he enjoyed it. And look at how where he is now. Or Dr. Hallowell, I forgot his first name. He is an MD who is also an expert in ADHD, and he has ADHD. And he wrote a book called ADHD 2.0 and also Driven to Distraction. They're really good books if you ever want to check them out. He talked about how he almost failed out of medical school, which I can imagine just such a, yes, medical school, having ADHD, it takes a lot of support and strategies and life hacks. But the way he set himself up for success is that he his interest-based system had to do with certain heroes, and I couldn't remember who it was, but certain people that he was really inspired by. And during his studies, he would pretend as if he had to save their lives, and the studies he would make it relatable to that person. Um, so I'm not explaining this very well, but I just thought that was so intriguing that even as an adult who is doing something so difficult as far as just his studies for medical school, he even used these same strategies to help him to sustain attention, uh, to persist with tasks that are so difficult. So that's a way. Just think about what are your kiddos' health interests that they already are showing, and if you don't know, just observe them, play with them, watch them play without interference. So for my son, he loves to draw, he loves to build, and so I'll give another example. He was doing homework one day, and it was math, and it was driving me nuts. After 30 minutes, he had only done uh, actually he hadn't even done anything. What he did do was he drew pictures all over this worksheet, and I could feel myself just that anger kind of rising up. And finally, I said, "What are you doing?" And then he says, "It's right there. The answers are right there." And sure enough, when I picked up that piece of paper and looked at it closely, he had written the answers. He had drawn it and into the pictures itself. So there was a figure riding a bike holding the number. And so I have to say this because our kiddos they have such amazing brains. We have to take the, uh, we kind of have to hold the heartache and the humor together. And then also see the strengths and the deficits as two sides of the same coin sometimes. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting experience there. Okay, child empowerment, other things, choices and opportunities. Anytime you can build autonomy and let your kiddo feel validated, seen, and heard, uh,